The Book of Nehemiah, Chapter 1. The words of Nehemiah, the son of Hachaliah. And it came to pass in the month of Chisleu, in the 20th year, as I was in Shushan the palace, that Hanani, one of my brethren, came, he and certain men of Judah. And I asked them concerning the Jews that had escaped, which were left of the captivity, and concerning Jerusalem. And they said unto me, The remnant that are left of the captivity there in the province are in great affliction and reproach. The wall of Jerusalem also is broken down, and the gates thereof are burned with fire. And it came to pass, when I heard these words, I sat down and wept and mourned certain days, and fasted, and prayed before the God of heaven, and said, I beseech thee, O Lord God of heaven, the great and terrible God that keepeth covenant and mercy for them that love him, and observe his commandments. Let thine ear now be attentive, and thine eyes open, that thou mayest hear the prayer of thy servant, which I pray before thee now, day and night, for the children of Israel thy servants, and confess the sins of the children of Israel, which we have sinned against thee, both I and my father's house have sinned. We have dealt very corruptly against thee, and have not kept the commandments, nor the statutes, nor the judgments which thou commandest thy servant Moses. Remember, I beseech thee, the word which thou commandest thy servant Moses, saying, If ye transgress, I will scatter you abroad among the nations. But if ye turn unto me, and keep my commandments, and do them, though there were of you cast out unto the uttermost part of heaven, yet will I gather them from thence, and will bring them unto the place that I have chosen to set my name there. Now these are thy servants and thy people, whom thou hast redeemed by thy great power, and by thy strong hand. O Lord, I beseech thee, let now thine ear be attentive to the prayer of thy servant, and to the prayer of thy servants, who desire to fear thy name and prosper. I pray thee, thy servant, this day, and grant him mercy in the sight of this man, for I was the king's cupbearer. The book of Nehemiah is the last, really, of the really historical books of the Old Testament, and there's a huge amount of history here. Nehemiah lives in the place called Shushan, which is the name of the royal palace of Artaxerxes, whose grandfather was Darius, who captured it. And Shushan is the capital, also called Susa, S-U-S-A, where Daniel lived in that town, and where he probably died. There are lots of things that were happening at the time. The Persians, at around that same time, 5 or 10 years before or after, had their battle with the Greeks at Marathon, which they lost. And there was another battle 10 years after the first battle, which they won. The entire book of Esther takes place in Shushan, the palace, and Susa, the city, and throughout the Persian Empire. So there's a lot that's there. Now Nehemiah, we know he first thing we learn about him pretty much is he has a brother, Hanani, an actual literal brother, Hanani, and that we see that towards the end of the chapter he says he's the cupbearer to the king. And a lot of people don't really understand just what a phenomenally responsible position that was. Being a king in those days was tantamount to setting yourself up with a target on your forehead and on your chest and on your back, in that anybody who could kill you could take over the kingdom, or at least figured they could. And one of the best, easiest, and least complicated ways to kill the king was to poison him. So just about the most responsible position you could be in would be the royal cupbearer, because when you were the royal cupbearer, you were the guy who was entrusted with making sure that the king's food and drink was not poisoned. You were the one who was supposed to taste it all, supervise the preparation of it, as a matter of fact, although that was usually delegated to somebody else that you trusted. And then you would drink the wine. Anything that the king ate or drank, you were the guy who ate or drank it first. And after you had it and you survived, then the king would have it, because it was assumed that if it was poison, you would die. And so being the royal cupbearer was an extraordinarily responsible and highly trusted position. And we learn from his life and everything that he did that Nehemiah was an absolutely incorruptible individual, absolutely an amazing man for the time, for the people, and that he had all the qualities of leadership. Now, he wasn't, as such, a prophet of God. He was, however, an extraordinarily righteous man. We don't know how old he was. All we know is that chances are, and this is deduction, speculation, we know that his family was probably not one of those that chose to go back to Israel, to go back to Jerusalem, and that he was probably born in the time of Cyrus, when the people had, some of the people, small percentage of the people had decided to go back. And we sort of deduce that from age calculations as to how old he would have had to been to be the cupbearer and the other things that are there. But these chapters show his amazing integrity and the quality of his life, his ability, his good judgment, his ability to inspire people, his concern for his brethren, and his righteousness. And he is a great man.